Hi everybody, this is Christine, and today we're going to be talking about the very first deck I ever built, or rather the first precon I ever modified. So this is Ezuri Claw of Progress. I have had this deck for several years now. I think I actually remember when this came out. This might have been when my husband and our friends started really getting into Commander, because they had started out on standard and they started me out on standard, and I was playing a lot of blue, a lot of green, and all of that. So when they wanted to start doing Commander, I picked a precon that allowed for the use of my then favorite colors. I think I've grown into a Demir girly, but I still respect my Simic roots. Anyway, what Ezuri Claw of Progress does is whenever a creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under my control, I get an experience counter, not Ezuri. I get the experience counter. I didn't quite realize that when I started modifying this deck. So that led to some confusion on my part, but I was ultimately set straight about what experience counters are. And you got to know what experience counters are in order for this deck to work. And at the beginning of combat on my turn, I get to put X +1/+1 counters on another target creature I control, where X is the number of experience counters that I have. So basically every combat, I can take the amount of experience counters and put them all on one creature, and I can do that every single turn. Or I can split them apart across different creatures. This is very versatile. I was planning on talking about this deck and about this commander and how much love I've put into this deck over the years. But in the middle of it, I realized I haven't touched this deck in a while, and I play very differently now. And this deck, with its experience counters and its +1/+1 counters, this deck would run really interestingly with some infect tech. So I stopped filming the video and got on TCG Player, and now I have some infect cards that I'm going to add into this deck. These are the infect cards that I'm adding into this deck because they are all power 2 or less, and that synergizes well with Ezuri Claw of Progress. And that then allows me to put these in, and then I get to add these +1/+1 counters, experience counters, onto these, and then I could swing at my opponents for lethal. So I need to figure out what cards to cut from this 99 to add these 5. I've made a couple of cuts since then because I picked up Wonder for this deck, but I'm not sure if I should use Wonder or if I should use what I was using to acquire keywords in this deck, Akroma's Memorial. This allows me to have my creatures to have flying, first strike, vigilance, trample, haste, and protection from black and from red, which felt valuable in this deck, but I swapped it out for Wonder, and I'm wondering if that's the right decision. I'm not sure if this belongs in a different deck. Maybe the Horrors could use this, but I'm gonna set this aside for now. And then these are some of the cards that were pulled from the original precon. Not this one, but these 3. This one is also interesting. This might be one for Nico, because I feel like Nico could use it. But again, this isn't about Nico. This is about my firstborn, Ezuri Claw of Progress. So let's deal with let me talk about these card sleeves. So I did not buy these card sleeves. My friends bought me these card sleeves because when my husband and I started playing in the Commander game night group that we play in now, I was really notorious for hating card sleeves, and I hated them. This deck walked around without any card sleeves at all. The Horrors didn't have any card sleeves at all. And it was just, they were just really annoying to me because they're sharp and they stab you, that kind of thing, and I just didn't want to deal with it. I also had some pretty cheap ones and I hated them, and they kept breaking whenever I shuffled, so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go without them. But apparently you need them if you want to play very seriously. So my birthday last year, my friends in the group, they all got together and they got me these, because they thought it would be funny because in 2023 I got really into Taylor Swift, and Taylor Swift is my age, so I've always been somewhat aware of Taylor Swift and I've always liked her music, but I would not have called myself a Swiftie until 2023 2024 with the Eras tour. So they thought this would be really funny, and it was really funny. And now Ezuri Claw of Progress has Saint Taylor custom card sleeves, and this also started my everlasting love of custom card sleeves. That's why the Brats have like their card sleeves, and the Nico deck has those card sleeves. Like I like that they have personality other than just this is the deck, you know. So Ezuri is going to be here just hanging out watching the process. I'm going to get these infect creatures out of the way, and let's figure out what we can replace, and then from there I can kind of talk about some of the things that I have put in here and things that I have, and things that came with the deck. Like this is like the alternate commander, like in the precon. So if this is the box commander, this is what you're supposed to use if you don't want to use that commander. This is Prime Speaker Zagana. She enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the greatest power among other creatures I control. And when Prime Speaker Zagana enters the battlefield, draw cards equal to its power, which is honestly really cool. This is a really cool card, I think, especially as like an emergency, like in case of no draw engine break glass. This is kind of how that works. Oh, this is something that I added. This is Robe of Mirrors, and this allows for Shroud, which is good because people like to make him go away because of the experience counter thing, because as long as he's not on the battlefield, he does not allow me to have counters. I also have some like X creatures in here that I will get to later, and this allows them to not be targeted. And this I feel like could be something for Nico as well, just to keep him safe, because every time Nico's on the battlefield when I play that deck, like everyone's just getting rid of him and stuff. So I'm gonna pull this out, and if I add it in, I add it back in, but I'm gonna pull this out for Nico because it's also a low mana cost. And then I'm going to add the Glistener Elf for the same amount of mana cost. So this has infect, and that's basically it, and it's going to be a 1/1, and that would activate Ezuri Claw of Progress. Cool. Now we get to have the Wonder debate. So this is Wonder. I have this in the Rat deck, and I have to decide whether Ezuri keeps Wonder and then Akroma's Memorial goes to the Horrors, or if I put Akroma's Memorial back in this deck and then Wonder goes to the Horrors. So I'm not sure. This could go either way. I feel like maybe the Horrors, because it's like a mill deck, like a steel deck. Maybe Wonder could, like, this might be what I want instead, whereas Wonder might be more useful here. I don't know. I feel like both have equal usability, but I also think that Ezuri might have a lower converted mana cost, a lower CMC. So maybe Wonder can stay and Akroma's Memorial will go to the Horrors. Maybe. We might have to come back to this. As you can tell, like, I haven't made that many modifications. Well, I might have made some modifications because Chromatic Lantern is in this as well. I actually think the Rats could use this. Because Chromatic Lantern is 1 mana of any color to my mana pool. I feel like the Rats being 3 colors and this versus being 2 colors, I feel like this isn't as useful in this deck. I think the Rat should have it. So I'm going to pull this out, and I'm going to replace it with the lower cost Plague Mirror, which also serves as a mana dork. Look at me making good decisions. Also, look how shiny he is. Look how shiny the little mirror is. I enjoy him very much. This is one of the creatures that gets +1/+1 counters on its own, but this isn't one of my X creatures. So this allows for destroying all artifacts and enchantments, and then putting a 1/1 counter based on the destroyed artifacts and enchantments. Truly a bane of progress. Well, this is green. I kind of don't want to get rid of this because I don't have another green deck. So I don't know what I would do with these green things. So I'm gonna keep as much green in this deck as possible. This is super fun if I can get something that allows me to bounce it back to my hand. I definitely have something in the 99 that allows me to bounce certain cards back to my hand, but it's kind of like a rare thing. But I have casted this as much as 3 times in a game just to allow me to get cards back into my hand and cards back into my hand. I've definitely cast this more than once in a game. This is another kind of small another commander assistant that I've added, even though this Ezuri doesn't activate this Ezuri. This Ezuri allows me to proliferate, which is going to be really, really great for the experience counters and for the infect creatures. So Ezuri is hanging out. And also I really like this art. I really like these hideaway lands. The rats have the red one, and I know I have the blue one hanging around somewhere, but I'm not sure what to do with that. That might be something for the horrors because that's like a mill thing. This is part of the precon, but this is going to be even more useful considering I'm going to have 5 infect creatures and probably counting if I find more low cost blue, green, colorless, low power cards that are infect for this, because then with a blue and a green I can make them unblockable. So this is Walk the Eons. I get to take an extra turn. This is but I have to sacrifice islands, and it depends on how well this deck like mana ramps. So I don't know if I would sacrifice 3 islands for that, but maybe this is something that again the horrors could use. So you know what, I'm gonna pull Walk the Eons out, and then I'm going to replace it with Corpse Cur because it allows for some recovery. I feel like I'm making good cuts, or if at least I'm making what I believe is decent cuts. This is a great creature. I enjoy this creature so much. I don't understand the difference between a creature and a snow creature, but I don't have any snow lands, like maybe that's why, but it came with the precon, so I must be allowed to cast it with regular lands, so I don't know what the thing is here. Hooded Hydra is one of the X creatures that I added, and it basically serves as an Orochi hatchery. There's an Orochi hatchery in here, we will talk about that because that's part of the precon, but it's such a win condition under the right circumstances. So this comes in with X +1/+1 counters on it, and then when it dies, I get to put a 1/1 green snake creature token onto the battlefield for each 1/1 counter. So this comes in with the amount that I cast for X, and then I get to add experience counters to it, and then from there, when it dies, I can just a bunch of green snake creature tokens, which allows this to activate that much more, and then I get to add those counters to other creatures. We love Hooded Hydra. Okay, so this is a big guy. I guess this is kind of like sort of a win con. Like he's like a big guy to kind of babysit all the little guys. But no, I still think he's useful. I'm going to keep him. So I didn't really add any extra lands into this. I don't think this needs any extra lands. It does have plenty of ramp. I think this is the last little bit. Oh, the Sad Man. The Sad Man is here. The Sad Man gets to stay, especially because he activates Ezuri. Experiment 1. I love this card. This is one of my favorite turn 1 plays on this deck, because if I just leave him alone and then I add counters to him from Ezuri later, then I get to just continually regenerate him, which is really, really, really good in this deck. This is power 4. Do we need this? It's not changeling. So it's not changeling. It's not power 4. So like the rats don't need it. The horrors don't need it. Maybe Nico could use this. I don't think we need this. I don't think we need this in this deck. So we are going to replace that with the lower cost Viral Drake, which allows me to proliferate. Destroying target permanents. We love to do that. Beastmaster Ascension, kind of a win con in this deck. We enjoy that as well. The Planeswalker. The Planeswalker was definitely an added on my own. This allows me to untap things, and it allows me to get things into my hand that I might not have otherwise gotten into my hand, which is pretty cool. And then I get to get 3 giant octopi to swing with if I want when I get like my emblem, which is great because then I get to have those octopi fight things, which is fun. Oh, here it is. Here it is. This is one of my favorite cards in this deck. This is the Orochi Hatchery. I basically would probably just use all of my mana and cast this for like, I would cast it for double what X is because it's XX. And then it comes in with that many charge counters on it. And then the next turn, or if I have 5 more lands, I get to tap it. And then every single time I tap 5 and then tap this, that's more snakes and more snakes and more snakes, more little itty bitty guys, which activate Ezuri, which give me bigger and bigger snakes every single time. It's kind of like the artifact version of Maronar, but for Simic. I think that's why I like Maronar and the rats so much, because it kind of reminds me of this. This is like the beginning of like that crazy token creature generation. I really enjoy this card, and I don't see it like enough. I think it only really works in like these like counter decks and these like proliferating decks like this. So there is that. Oh, and because of the charge counters, Ezuri Stalker of Spheres can proliferate those, which is also really cool. Here's my baby. Here's my boy. This is Hero's Bane. And Hero's Bane comes in with 4+1/+1 counters. And then every time I tap 4, I get to double it. And because he's a little guy, starts off at first, he activates Ezuri. And then I can use the experience counters to add those counters onto this, and then on my second main tap 4 and then double it, and then add the experience counters and then tap 4 and then double it every turn. I've gotten this guy up to like, I got this guy up to like 400 once. He eventually like got removed. I don't remember like what happened, because it was definitely like I think I had gotten a Chroma's Memorial out onto the battlefield and it was immediately removed, and then the next person dealt with Hero's Bane, so I never got to swing with a 400 power Hero's Bane. But the fact that I was able to get it that big, it was one of my early MTG accomplishments, and I enjoyed it very much. Here we have another like little itty bitty ooze, and I don't know, I like him. I think he's fun. He's indestructible. He gets +1/+1 counters whenever he attacks. And then whenever creatures die to Predator Ooze, I get to put more counters on it, which then counters. It be like that. This deck requires a lot of dice, which is sad because I don't have a lot of dice. This is one of those cards that I think needs to stay in a Simic deck because of the requirement that if you want to keep it on the battlefield, you have to use green. But it's super worth it for that like super clutch shroud for the turn. I have one more infect creature. What do I get rid of? Oh, here's my other boy. So this card right here is one of my favorite additions to this deck because it is an absolutely filthy 2-turn win con. If I get this card out at any point during the game, everybody is afraid, and they should be afraid, because if I've had it out for a while, I would have like 6, 7, 8 experience counters on Ezuri Claw of Progress, which could then be proliferated by any of these other creatures that I've added into the deck. So then from there, if I have 5 or at least 5, I can add them to Sage of Hours and then remove all the counters. Like for each 5 counters removed that way, I get to take an extra turn. And I get to do that every turn. And if this is up to like 10, 15 experience counters, I've gotten it up there. I've gotten it up pretty high. That could be an extra 4 turns, an extra 5 turns. I can do that over and over and over again. And it's only 5 counters on this. It's like if I'm playing it correctly, Ezuri only needs to have gotten me 5 experience counters in order for Sage of Hours to do infinite turns. And this is the kind of thing that makes me wonder, especially with the infect tech that I'm adding, is this deck a 4? Is it even a 5? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like this deck, which is like my very first deck ever in Commander that I've had since like 2016, 2017. It's like an almost 10-year-old deck at this point. You can see the damage that Ezuri has taken with all the years of him being played without any card sleeves. with the 2-turn win cons and the infect and all of that, did this deck eventually get modified out of like the regular commander like power sphere? And could this deck compete? I don't know if this deck could compete like in actual competitions, but honestly, I really want to see it compete. I really do. I'll probably lose, but I definitely want to see this compete. So this leaves me a little bit of a problem because I do not have something that I want to remove for Phyrexian Digester. Everything else made it in. So I'm a little bit interested to see what I could add, like what I could take away. I probably want to get rid of something colorless or something blue. Like I was gonna say something colorless or something blue or something green, which is literally everything in this deck, so I don't know why I said that. I also feel like the infect tech in this deck might actually be canonical, because from what little bit I know about the MTG story, this version of Ezuri is like the corrupted Phyrexian version. So this Ezuri, I don't know if he was a good guy before, like he looks like a robot, but maybe, just maybe, this Ezuri is cool with the infect. I'm gonna headcanon that is true. I don't know what to get rid of. I don't know what to get rid of. This is wild. Tokens copy the creature. No, we kind of want to keep this. This is part of the precon, but I think we could keep this. This could be for the rats as well. I'm gonna hold this aside as something that we could cut, but I don't know. This is another reason why cutting a Chroma's Memorial didn't make me feel so bad, because Wonder in the graveyard, and this does a lot of the things that a Chroma's Memorial does. So I'm not that upset by cutting a Chroma's Memorial. It's just, that is kind of like a fun way to handle that, you know? I'm not sure what to get rid of. I was super into the idea of having some infect in here, but I would like all 5 in this deck, but I don't know what to cut. I could cut a land, but I don't want to cut a land. That feels like a shitty way to handle that. Cutting a land just seems really silly. I don't want to cut a land. I think we're cutting Mirror Match. We're cutting Mirror Match because I feel like this could be more useful in another deck. I think Nico could use this. I'm willing to get rid of it. I'm willing to cut this to make room for this. Especially because I've never actually played Mirror's Match in this deck before. Did I just prove my point? Oh no, I was like, did I just prove my point about why I hate card sleeves? But no, I didn't. This is the little clear ones that it came with. You guys just watched what might be like 20 minutes of me making cuts and adding things to this deck, and I hope that you enjoyed it, because I enjoyed making it, and I definitely will enjoy playing my strange St. Taylor Swift card sleeved Ezuri Claw of Progress deck with infect tech and proliferate and draws and the option for infinite extra turns. My life counter goes in here. So I'm very excited to play this. I'm very excited to bring my very first commander deck out of retirement. And now I gotta figure out what to do with all of these blue cards. This could be another like episode of this Magic the Gathering talk where I find new homes for these particular cards. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Magic the Gathering talk. I fully intended to make this last week, but then the idea to add infect tech to this deck just made me so excited. I just dropped everything and went to do it. So I am excited to see this deck play, and I will report back with the results. Have a great day, y'all.